All right, so looks like we've got a bunch of questions about these IRS tax transcript codes. Want to crack the code and figure out what they mean for your refund, maybe even your tax bill? Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to break it all down.
Yeah, these codes, they're like, they really offer a peek behind the curtain of the IRS. Super fascinating stuff.
I agree. It's like, whoa, this is how it all works. So let's jump right in, okay? A really common one is TC 150. Now, does that mean like you're good to go, refund's on its way?
Not quite. The TC 150, it just means the IRS has processed your return. So it's the first step.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a refund, you know.
Okay, so it could go any which way. You might owe, you might get money back, could be a wash. All right, what about TC 806?
That's a good one. That's all about your federal withholding, you know, the taxes they take out of your paycheck.
Right.
So it's like a credit potentially offsetting what you owe.
So does it like ever make sense to kind of mess with your withholding during the year?
Oh, absolutely. Some people, they want that big refund, so they adjust accordingly. Others, they'd rather just minimize their tax liability throughout the year. It really depends on your personal, financial strategy and all that.
That's good advice. Okay, so let's talk about these refundable credits. Those sound pretty exciting. Which codes should we be looking for?
So you want to watch out for 766 and 768. 766, that's for the additional child tax credit and the American Opportunity Tax Credit. And then 768, that's the earned income credit.
Okay, those sound like they could really bump up a refund. But I'm always a little wary of that whole verification process. Seems like that could cause some serious delays.
Yeah, you're not wrong. They definitely go through a more rigorous review. So, it's a trade-off, bigger refund, potentially, but maybe a longer wait.
Okay, makes sense. All right, what about code 764? That one doesn't sound so good.
Yeah, unfortunately not. So that 764, it means there might be an issue with the earned income credit. Could be a reversal, an adjustment, something like that.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, and it often means a smaller refund or a delay.
Okay, it's like just when you think you're in the clear, bam, another twist.
Oh, that's taxes for you. Always keeping you on your toes.
Speaking of twists, what about that, notice issued code 971? What's that all about?
Don't panic if you see that one. It just means the IRS needs to get in touch. Could be about anything, really. Verification, refund adjustments, you name it.
So could be good, could be bad, but definitely don't ignore it, right?
Exactly. Read it carefully, respond promptly, you'll avoid headaches later on.
Great advice. All right, what about 570 and 571? Those seem kind of connected.
They are. So 570, that's a hold, basically. They need to verify something. Maybe you're missing a document, something like that. Then 571, that's the all clear, back on track.
So 570 is like, hold your horses, and 571 is, we're off to the races. Got it. What about 810 and 811? I keep seeing those called refund, freeze, and thaw, which sounds kind of ominous.
Yeah, those ones are important. 810 means they've frozen your refund. They're holding it until they sort some things out.
What kind of things would cause that?
Often it's identity theft concerns, or maybe they need to take a closer look at your return.
So it's like a, higher level of scrutiny.
Yeah, exactly.
And then 811 means you're good to go.
Yep, freeze is lifted, things are moving again.
All right, 810. Hold your breath. 811. Breathe the sigh of relief. Okay, what about these offset codes, 8998 and 826? What are those all about?
Those are about debts, basically.
Yeah.
Part or all of your refund might be used to pay off what you owe.
Wait, so they can just take your refund?
In certain situations, yes. So 898 means you have a state debt. Could be taxes, child support, things like that. 826 is a federal debt, student loans, back taxes, that sort of thing.
So it's good to know if you're expecting a refund and you see one of those codes, you might want to check if you have any outstanding debts, right?
Absolutely. Always best to be prepared.
Okay, another one that probably makes people nervous. Code 290, disallowed claim. What's going on there?
That just means the IRS denied a claim for a credit or refund that you put on your return.
So is that it? No chance of getting that money?
Not necessarily. You might be able to appeal.
Yeah.
Just got to review the notice carefully. Understand why they disallowed it.
Okay, so there's still hope. What about 977? That one seems like it could mean a couple different things.
Yeah, 977 can be a little tricky. Could mean they found income you didn't report, or it could mean you filed an amended return.
So you gotta look at the context, figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
All right, last but not least, the code we all want to see, 846.
That's the moneymaker. 846, refund approved. It's on its way.
And then it's just a matter of watching your bank account.
You got it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of those codes. Now let's dive a little deeper into the reasons behind some of these things, especially the processing holds. What are some common reasons the IRS might, hit the pause button on a return?
Well, one of the biggest ones is verification. The IRS, they've got all these safeguards in place to prevent fraud, make sure everything's accurate.
Makes sense. They're dealing with millions of returns.
Right. So if anything on your return raises a red flag, they might need to verify certain info, like income, deductions, dependents, filing status, all that thing.
Or if there's a mismatch between what you say and what their records show.
Exactly. That could trigger a hold.
That's where that 570 comes in, right? Like, hold on, we need to double check.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so verification's one reason. What else might cause a delay?
Sometimes it's just missing info. Forgot to sign the return, crucial form is missing, things like that.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
It happens. But good news is, once you provide that missing info, the hold should be released.
That's good to hear. Okay, those refund freezes, those seem a bit more serious. What causes them?
Well, those are often related to identity theft concerns, maybe suspected fraud. The IRS, they take identity theft very seriously. They've got sophisticated systems to detect it.
It is scary how common identity theft has become these days.
It's true, and tax returns are a prime target, unfortunately.
So how do they even know if someone's identity's been compromised?
They look for certain red flags, like multiple returns using the same Social Security number, or suspicious filing patterns, or mismatches between the info on the return and their records.
So they're like, what, financial detectives? Looking for clues?
Huh. That's a great way to put it. And if they get suspicious, they'll freeze the refund until they can verify your identity.
So that's that 810 code in action. Everything's on hold.
Exactly.
I can imagine that's frustrating if you're really waiting on that refund.
Oh, yeah, especially if you've done everything right.
Well, but I guess it's better to be safe than sorry, right?
Definitely better to have a delay than risk having your refund stolen.
Makes sense. All right, let's talk about those offset codes again, 898 and 826. So that's where they use your refund to pay off other debts, right?
That's right. It's part of a program called the Treasury Offset Program, or TOP for short.
TOP sounds serious.
It is. That's how federal and state agencies collect overdue debts, like unpaid taxes, student loans, child support, even unemployment overpayments.
Wow, so it's not just tax debts?
Nope, lots of things.
So if you owe money to one of those agencies and you're getting a refund, they can just take it.
Pretty much, yeah. The IRS doesn't have much leeway there. If they get a notice from TOP, they have to offset the refund.
So is there any way to, fight it?
Depends on the situation. If you think the debt's invalid or it's already been paid, you should contact the agency that initiated the offset.
Okay, so it's worth looking into if you think there's been a mistake.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to that code 290 again, the disallowed claim. What are some of the most common reasons they might deny a credit or a refund?
Well, often it's because the taxpayer simply doesn't meet the requirements for the credit or refund.
Makes sense. Got to make sure you actually qualify before you claim it.
Right. Each credit and refund has specific rules, and the IRS is pretty strict about enforcing them.
What else might cause that disallowed claim?
Sometimes it's just errors, inconsistencies on the return, math mistake, information entered incorrectly, things like that.
Easy to do, especially when you're rushing.
It is, but even small errors can lead to problems, so double check your work.
Accuracy is key, but what if you think you do qualify and the IRS says you don't?
Well, you have the right to appeal. The notice will tell you how to do that.
Okay, so it's not the end of the world if you get that notice. You still have options.
Exactly.
All right, last one, that code 977, the one with the double meaning. How do you tell if it's about unreported income or an amended return?
Usually the notice will clarify things. If it's about unreported income, they'll probably ask for documentation to support your original return.
So they're giving you a chance to explain yourself.
Right. But if it's about an amended return, they'll acknowledge that and maybe give you an update on its status.
So 977, not necessarily bad news. It all depends.
You got it.
Okay, so really, all these codes, they're just tools to help you understand what's happening with your return. Nothing to be scared of, right?
Exactly. Just information.
Now, we've talked a lot about those individual codes, but I'm curious, what are some overall red flags that might indicate there's an issue with a return, even beyond those specific codes?
That's a great question. I'd say if you're seeing multiple hold codes, a refund freeze, or an offset, that's definitely a sign that something needs attention. Might be a good time to consult with a professional just to be safe.
Okay, so a cluster of those codes could mean trouble.
Potentially, yeah. But remember, those codes, they're really just tools to help you understand what's happening with your return, not meant to be intimidating or confusing.
Good reminder. Well, I think we've covered just about everything on those codes and audits. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we move on?
I think the most important thing is knowledge is power, especially when it comes to taxes. Understanding these codes can really help you feel more confident and in control of your tax situation.
Absolutely. And if you're ever unsure about anything, a tax professional can be a huge help. All right, so we've really gotten into the nitty-gritty of these codes and, the reasons behind the holds, the freezes, all that. But I think before we wrap things up, we got to talk about that big question that everyone's probably wondering.
You mean audits?
Exactly, audits. It's the scariest part of this whole thing.
It can be, yeah. But let's demystify it a bit. The first thing to understand is that, not all audits are the same.
Okay, so what are the different types of audits people might encounter?
Well, the most common one is a correspondence audit. Those are usually handled through the mail, pretty straightforward, and they typically deal with relatively minor issues.
What kind of issues are we talking about?
Oh, maybe you need to provide some extra documentation for a charitable donation, or there's a discrepancy in your income reporting, something like that.
Okay, so nothing too major.
Right. Most of the time, you just send in the requested documents, and you're good to go.
All right, so that's the basic level. What about the more intense audits?
So the next level up would be an office audit. That's where you actually have to meet with an IRS agent at their office.
Okay, so things are getting a little more formal now.
Yeah, a bit more formal, but they're still usually focused on specific items from your return. Could be something more complex, like business expenses, rental income, self-employment income, things like that.
Basically anything that requires a closer look at your finances.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's the one that everyone dreads, the field audit.
Ah, yes, the field audit.
What exactly happens during a field audit?
So in a field audit, an IRS agent actually comes to your home or business to review your records.
Whoa, that's a whole other level. When would they do that?
Field audits are usually reserved for the most complex cases, or when there's a strong suspicion of fraud.
So hopefully most people never have to deal with that.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, well, let's talk about what to do if you actually get that audit notice. What's the best way to approach the situation?
First of all, don't panic. It's easy to freak out, but try to stay calm. Getting an audit notice, it doesn't mean you've done something wrong.
I know, but it's hard not to, immediately jump to the worst case scenario.
I get it,
Yeah.
But honestly, it's just part of their process. They're just making sure everything's on the up and up. So yeah, take a deep breath, read the notice carefully, understand exactly what they're asking for.
Okay, so no ignoring it and hoping it goes away.
Definitely not.
They'll usually tell you what documents you need to provide, right?
Yeah, the notice will outline everything.
So being organized is super important. What if you can't find everything they're asking for?
It happens. Don't worry. Just be honest with the IRS, explain the situation. They're usually pretty understanding if you're cooperative.
Okay, that's good to hear. Now, should you handle the audit yourself, or is it better to get help?
That's a good question. It depends on a couple things, really. How complex the audit is and how comfortable you feel with tax stuff.
So if it's a simple correspondence audit, you might be okay on your own.
Yeah, exactly. But if it's more complicated or you're just feeling lost, definitely talk to a tax professional.
Okay, they can kind of guide you through the process and make sure you're doing everything right.
Exactly. They're there to help.
So to sum it up, don't panic, be organized, and don't be afraid to get professional help if you need it.
Perfect advice.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about those mysterious codes, figured out what they mean, why they happen, and we even tackled the scary stuff like audits.
We did. It's been a pretty thorough deep dive.
And most importantly, you, our listener, now have the knowledge to navigate your tax journey with confidence.
That's what we're here for.
So the next time you see a code on your tax transcript, don't just freak out. Take a minute, understand what it means, and take action if you need to.
And remember, if you're ever unsure about anything, a tax professional can be a great resource.
Absolutely. They can help you make sense of it all. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive today. Hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit empowering.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your taxes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, happy filing, everyone.